It's time for Cutting Edge Consciousness with Freeman Michaels and Barnet Bain. Thought-provoking discussions and bold ideas from the edge of possibility.
Good moment. Thank you for joining us. This is Barnet Bain with a lump in my throat. This is Barnet Bain, and I'm here with...
Freeman Michaels.
You see, I said I wasn't going to do it, but I did it. That's just to keep you on your toes.
Don't line it up that I have to say.
You got to show up. We just got to get you
way.
into the game right off the bat.
Good moment, Mr. Bain.
Good moment. It's been a great week again. Again.
I love this morning meeting you and Sandy, your wife, at coffee, which, of course, Barnett and I usually do alone. But every time the two of you show up, it's a delight for me. And do you want to hear why?
Sure. No, I don't. Sandy, you want to hear why?
I do.
She does. She wants to hear why.
Very good.
Yeah, why? Better be good.
Because I love the way the two of you show up as a couple. It's very fun. It's like, I feel like there's going to be a party. Like, it just feels fun when the two of you come sort of leaping out of
Well,
your
after
vehicle.
33 years, we bring the decorations.
You bring
and
lots
the
to the
food
table.
and the alcohol.
I love you in relationship with your wife. I mean, love you anyhow, but I just think it's really charming to see the two of you together. I mean, I spend time, and
That's
Jasmine
right.
and I spend time with you, but it was really fun to experience that. And I love how inspired both of you are after your recent weekend exploring.
Oh, yes. Well,
go ahead. You set it up.
I'm glad that you segued into that. I mean, we spent a weekend at an event, and we'll thread back around to the event in the third segment. I don't want to color anybody's listening to this story by going into that too much, but we'll give credit where credit is due in due course. So we were at this event, and we were with a group. This group consisted of a lot of socially responsible investors and a lot of social activists, a whole lot of very, very conscious people.
Yeah, some friends of the show.
Some very, very well-known, some internationally known authors and presenters and speakers in this area of consciousness and personal growth and spirituality. And one of the things that we all experienced was a game. We played a game together. Very briefly, this is what it looked like. We divided up into groups, and I was in a group of four teams of two. So we paired off into twos, 4 teams. And basically what happened is we strategized in our small teams, and we would come up with a response to a certain set of rules that involved a kind of a competition. The idea was, we were told, make as much money as you can. And there was some strategy involved, and we played rounds and rounds and rounds. We had to throw either an X or a Y. Those were the only two choices, but they were thrown in strategic ways. Now, very, very early on, it became apparent that if we could get a consensus, and all 8 people, all 4 teams of 2, if we all played the same card, the same Y card, everyone would be a winner. We would win a predictable and small margin, but everybody would be a winner. We're playing with money. And all the various iterations of possibilities of the 4 teams throwing mixes of X and Ys, they each paid off different odds. But if everybody played the same way, everyone would win. So as this becomes evident, we're bringing this to the attention of everyone, and people are to some degree pushing back, and then to some degree, round after round, they're becoming enrolled. And we think we have some agreement, so everybody is going to play the Y. And then all of a sudden, X, Y, 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 X.
Somebody did.
Now, what happens on the X is, this is very revealing, the closer that you get to a systemic order, an agreement where everybody is win-win, the closer you get to that, the higher the margin is for those that are playing in opposition, for the lone wolves. And so what happened was, consistently, we would get more and more agreement, and then somebody would go off and play their own game and win enormous amounts until eventually, in the model that we were playing, we never did achieve complete consensus. We got to the point where three of the teams all voted Y, and then in the last minute, somebody voted an X, and essentially made us all homeless in the game. But that team were multi-gazillionaires.
Sounds familiar.
Here's the takeaway. Here is the takeaway from this experience.
Please.
It was profound, and it was deeply, deeply felt and energetically felt. There was there was an energetic, a palpable shift in the room as people understood this, experienced this. It was no longer mental. We suddenly saw that how the socialization process is so extreme that even among a group of people who are exploring consciousness as their primary passion in life, who have dedicated themselves to works beautiful, good, and true, who are making enormous difference in the world, when push comes to shove and the instructions are make as much money as you can, and we're given monopoly money, the shark that is so latent in all of our conditioning rises.
Big time.
And we understood that. We understood experientially, not as an outer model, not as an external learning. From the inside out, we understood that we are all separate and connected. And that we can all flourish, or some will perish early. Some will flourish early, and others will perish early. And eventually, we will all perish. There is a very, very clear choice here. So it was very, very dramatic.
I love it.
And I wanted to share that.
Yeah, no, I love it on a lot of different levels. One is the playing is such a space where, we play at these things, and the sense of being in the experience and seeing this big glaring mirror of a pattern that is so ingrained that, even with the best of intentions, we've talked before on this show about the sort of conceptual self and then the actualized self, like my concept of myself, but then how am I in action? What actually occurs in my life that mirrors back to me what's really running the show? What I say I'm committed to, and then my actual commitments, the actual stuff that shows up, which shows I'm committed to a much smaller story, at least on some level, some part of me is.
And it's not bad.
No, I'm not trying
because
to, it's human.
You take a step.
Yeah.
You take a step towards what intellectually and intuitively you understand is the greater good, the greater integrity. We take that step even before before it's dropped into the heart. You take the step, but character in the end is what I say, what I think, and what I do.
It's your actions.
And there comes this was so powerful because it experientially, in the body. I mean, I felt as though I had taken a punch to the solar plexus. It was a palpable, energetic field of understanding that was no longer conceptual, and that is why it is so powerful. And that, I have to say, that has changed me. And I'm not going to prognosticate, but I would like to think that it has changed me forever. I think it impacted me sufficiently that it can be a fundamental choice on my part.
Well, this is the challenge, is to move from concept to where it becomes actual and real and experiential. And I don't think this is something that happens in a day. I don't even know if there's an arrival point.
Well, I think change happens in an instant, but it can take 30, 40, 50, 60, or 60,000 or 14 billion years of love affair with a straight line to get to the choice point.
And look, we talked before about integrity means integrated. It's this sense that it's all included. Nothing gets excluded. That's all part of our experience. And we come to moments and ways. Expanding consciousness is really just a different way of holding what we may have ascribed to in the past, or ways that we've behaved and thought. It doesn't necessarily shift it. It shifts it. Yes, it does. But it's a way of holding it that includes it in a more constructive way.
Well, having laid out that experience of having experienced something in a different way, as if for the very first time, I think this is a perfect segue, a perfect point in which to introduce our guest What do you think?
Please.
What do you think?
It's perfect. It's perfect. Perfect guest, too, for this moment in time.
It is a perfect guest, isn't it,
Yes.
for this? So we have with us today my friend Craig Hamilton, who's the founder and guiding force. Or should I say the guiding light?
Yeah.
I think he'd probably dig light. Behind Integral Enlightenment.
No comment.
No comment.
It's already here.
We'll get into that. So Craig's writings, his talks, his kite surfing, did I say that? His teachings, they reach a growing international community of thousands of students in over 30 countries around the world. He's a founding member of the Integral Institute. That's Ken Wilber's organization, a member of Evolutionary Leaders, that's Deepak's forum. He's participated in the synesthesia dialogues presided over by the Dalai Lama. Should I say His Holiness, the Dalai Lama?
Yeah,
Would the Dalai Lama say His Holiness? I guess he'd
think
say we were His Holiness. They're our Holiness.
That's
Anyway.
right. He probably would.
So Craig is also married to Claire Zammit, friend of
Yes.
ours, friend of this show,
Yes.
co-founder of Feminine Power Global
With
Community.
Catherine, our dear friend.
And they live idyllically in San Rafael, California,
Nice.
and Tahoe, where it's raining.
And in Tahoe, where it's raining. Hey, good moment, Craig.
A good moment to you guys. Thanks for scooping me into your kitchen table conversation. And
Yeah, pass the salt.
Pass the light, would you? It's getting a little rough in here. No, we've tugged at a string that I know you tug at often, which is really trying to step into a more actualized expression of something that often starts conceptually.
Yeah. So you want me to just kind of jump off of your story?
We want you to pull that string until the whole sweater unravels.
Tug at it.
All right, good. Well, I really enjoyed listening to your story, and it was I appreciated the point you made about how living through that as a group there over and over, playing this game, what really brought it home for you emotionally and viscerally, and as you said, made you feel possibly even changed by the experience. That's great. I want all my students and everybody I work with to play that game and have that moment, because I think it's illustrative.
Well, they are playing it. I mean, this is such a big mirror for our lives, is we're playing this game, knowing on some level, and by that I mean, much of our everyday interactions are opportunities to shift the game. They are, but more often than not, we track back to what I call often the small story. We're playing in the game by these rules that who knows who made them up, but we've somehow or other, agreed to play by these rules, and we know there's another set of rules, there's another operating system, but we're often inclined to just, slip into the pattern.
Yeah, and a couple things popped up for me in the midst of that. One is that because when you were looking at it, Barnet, you said, well, the first thing that stood out for you, or I think it was the first thing, or one of the more prominent things, was that you said it reveals so much about how deep our socialization goes, or socialization we might also refer to as our conditioning, but this deep cultural conditioning, which really means kind of shared agreements about what's real, what's important, what's valuable, how to be, the rules of the game, that have been set up. So there's that culture piece that is very strong. The other thing that really stood out for me in that, though, is that there's a lot of what's going on there that far precedes culture. In other words, we're dealing, and this is part of where, because you both now have given voice to this sense of here we are, human beings on the path, stretching to move forward. We maybe even have an identity as I'm a seeker, I'm a good person, I'm trying to evolve and do good things in the world. But then we're suddenly kind of taken by surprise by our own responses to life, meaning where we're actually coming from, not where we thought we were coming from. And so I think culture is part of that. I think another part of that, though, is that we're often not really seeing ourselves as we are, meaning what's a human being, really? We're an evolving organism. We're an animal that grew up out of this planet, that grew up out of the dust of this planet, and we've got eons of animal conditioning operating inside us, deeply embedded instincts. The name of the game, almost the entire time, has been survival of me. and maybe my family because they share my genes. But that's really what's been going on almost the whole time. And then it's like in the last kind of few seconds of this cosmic project, suddenly we've started to say, oh, wow, what's going on here? We've attained self-reflective consciousness. We've been able to start to look around and think, well, what's the meaning of all this, and what's the purpose, and how do we really thrive, and how could we create a better world? And suddenly it's not just about my survival, but it's about our thriving as a collective. And it's just this brand new idea in the universe that's starting to surface. But we're sort of, and because we're excited by that idea, and we're feeling the energy of that emergent impulse, we're then surprised when we act just like instinctually driven animals, even though that's almost all of what we are. You know,
it's like looking in the mirror after a really rough night out.
Say that? Sorry,
It's like looking in the mirror in the morning after a really rough night out. Oh, my God, I'm shocked.
I did it
But you're
again.
right. You're so right. I mean, here we're the product of eons of history. The good news is we are also the nexus of eons of future, as well as infinite beingness beyond time space. And as you say, the light is just going on.
And I want to predict the future. I predict
We have
that
to
we're
take a
going to
break.
talk about this after the commercial. So stay with us, because we'll be
We've got to
right
sell a
back.
car.
That's right. Here on Cutting Edge Consciousness.
Welcome back to Cutting Edge Consciousness, thought-provoking discussions and bold ideas from the edge of possibility.
And welcome back to Cutting Edge Consciousness. Freeman Michaels here with Barnet, Bain, and our amazing, amazing guest, Craig Hamilton, has joined us today from rainy Tahoe, California. Before we went to the break, we were talking about the survival orientation, that we've been sort of habitualized in this way, which makes sense because we're animals and we have adapted in ways and taken on patterns in order to survive. But there's this emerging, I think, Craig, you called it impulse, this sense there's a possibility. And Barnet, you were alluding to how we orient towards the possibility, I believe, in relationship to the past. We're not ignoring what we've been. But we're more organizing our choices around what's possible than what has been patterned. Did I get that right?
Where's our guest?
You want me to jump?
Oh,
Sorry. No,
there we got
I
him.
thought you were
We got
teasing
him.
Barnett.
I did say Barnet, but I was just lining up what Barnett was saying so you could feed the.
Yeah.
Yeah, but go ahead, Craig. You can take it.
Well, I'm happy to, yeah, because I made this point that okay, we've been animals far longer than we've been these self-reflective, conscious, highly motivated, caring, loving human beings. This is something new that's coming online, and I think I potentially painted a picture that could make you feel a little intimidated. I'm saying, look, almost all of what we are is this instinctually driven, deeply conditioned, animal. And then on top of that, there's something new coming. But it could sort of feel like, well, how am I ever going to win against 600 million years of animal conditioning that's playing itself out now? And here I am, a new human who wants to be different, who wants to step into a different orientation to life. But I've got the momentum of the past. And I think this is kind of what you were nudging at there, this emergent impulse that's coming online. And so what I would say to where could we possibly get the inner power, the motivation, the presence, the strength to be able to kind of go up against the momentum of our ancient evolutionary past, I think it's in what we're actually waking up to. Because, see, what I think we're waking up to, I hear it in your voices. We see it in the movement that Barnet was describing, all these people wanting to make the world a better place, wanting to evolve themselves. This emerging movement of conscious evolution that's saying, I want to help, I want to be a participant in bringing forth what's next. What I think we're really waking up to is something that's actually been going on a lot longer than our animal past. It's been going on for 13.7 billion years. It's the evolutionary impulse itself that burst all this into being, that's been unfolding its creativity throughout cosmic evolution, the evolution of life, now the evolution of human culture, and now the evolution of consciousness. And so this power that was so big that it was able to create everything we look around us and see and are in awe of and amazed by is actually waking up inside us now and becoming self-aware. And it's no longer me, the little person with all of my animal instincts. How do I get the will to overcome that? It's, wait a minute, I'm waking up to that I'm not that person I thought I was anyway. That's not what's really going on here. It's a part of it. But the bigger picture is I am the cosmic evolutionary process awakening as a human, and from that place I now have a perspective on my conditioning, and I have a whole different kind of source of will and free choice and motive and passion and clarity that is all arising from this deeper awakening. And I think if we can learn how to orient to that as our primary orientation and give up the notion that we're anything other than that this little self story of I'm a person who was born on this day and I've had these experiences and I'm going to die, and we let go of that story and we accept this much bigger story as our true story, then we start to find that all that momentum of the past, whether it's our own personal conditioning, our ancient instinctual conditioning, it just starts to lose its grip. It's still there, but I'm not going there anymore because it's not very interesting and it seems kind of small and kind of petty compared to what I could be and what I can participate in.
Yeah, that is so beautiful. One such way of fostering that, of developing that, you speak very beautifully of developing an intimacy with the we of us, with the all of us. You speak very beautifully of, you challenge us to make decisions and to make choices and to take actions, as if those choices and decisions were critical to the very survival of the planet, to assume that level of responsibility. And of course, this starts as a mental idea, but in the course of developing the practice, it moves from the head to the heart. And as a friend of mine often says, the qualities of getting there are the qualities of being there.
Very nice, beautiful.
So I know that you speak a great deal about that, and maybe you can offer our listeners some tips to develop the practice, some suggestions, some rituals, some navigational. Thank you. Beautiful.
Well, I appreciate that you took it there, Barnet, because it's kind of a very fundamental and it's a kind of different orientation than the one we're generally being fed by our culture and even by a lot of our spiritual kind of popular culture. This notion of moving from me to we is becoming pretty popular, pretty in vogue, pretty popular. You even hear it in corporate America now, so it's getting out there. But what does that really mean? And so again, if we're speaking here, we've been speaking today in an evolutionary context. We've been speaking about all, how we evolved, how we got here, where we are in our evolutionary journey. And I think what this awakening is it's beginning to realize, well, okay, if evolution is what's been going on all along, if this is just a current chapter in a unfolding 14 billion year evolutionary process that hopefully is going to go on for another 14 billion years or maybe into eternity in some form, then what is my role in that now? Because now, evolution up to this point was something that was kind of playing out pretty unconsciously, kind of mechanically, most of it, just certain kind of principles and laws in motion and watch it unfold and look how it's evolved. But now there's this choice point. I'm a person. I'm waking up and I'm realizing that I actually have a choice. I can, in this moment, let's say, you and I got into a little tussle or disagreement, and my whole reactive self kicks in, my animal self that says, defend, fight or flight, whatever, starts to kick in, and I notice it, and I say, wait, though, I don't have to act out of this. I actually have the free will to see this for what it is. Say, oh, there I am. There's the reactive part of me. There's the animal in me wanting to get into a fight. But I don't have to go there. What's really true here? Oh, what's really true? Barnet and I, actually, we are completely aligned in our mission, in our vision, what we're doing here. We're just having a little disagreement of perspective. Let's find our way to a different response, and I can respond completely free from all of that conditioning if I can bring that kind of presence of mind, presence of awareness to it.
And a sense of a bigger vision, because what I'm hearing you say is there's something that we're beginning to glimpse more and more. At least I am, and I'm fairly confident both of you men are, and there's plenty of people in the world having this experience, where there's a glimpse of possibility that's generous, generative, it's exciting, and it isn't something where. Because I think in the past, or not even the far past, very recently, the whole burden, the burden that came with the kind of responsibility you're talking about, at least that's how I initially perceived it, like, oh, it's a burden, it's going to be a lot of work. And the risk was very palpable. I mean, we track back just a little bit to the survival orientation, and, my initial leanings were, well, I'll play nice if everyone else plays nice. This sort of looking around saying, who's willing to play nice? And that has fundamentally shifted, because my sense is, this is my opinion, is the opportunity and the offer and the expression of the offer in moments. This is collaborative offer, right? We've had lots of people on this show talking about a new orientation, and that actually may be our original orientation, but we're orienting more towards collaboration, including Greg Braden and his book Deep Truth, and Lynn McTighe came on and talked about the bond, and we're hearing it in lots of different places. Wait a minute, we've organized around this, survivalism, and frankly, we're more equipped, perhaps, to organize around a collaborative model. But that has been elusive, at least in my own life, and it's becoming more and more real, because my commitment to it on the back of what you were just talking about, a bigger intention. And it's not so burdensome. It feels very joyful at this moment. That's the piece I connect with. In other words, it's not finger wagging. It's not, you have to recycle, you have to do this. It's more of an opportunity to share in something that is generous and generative.
No, it's a lovely image, and I think, see, what you're pointing to is that, yes, it might, and this is true of any real spiritual development, it can seem hard from the side of, I have to get over there, and I don't know how to get there, and that seems very challenging, but there's a pull and a magnetism that comes from actually doing it, actually taking those steps, and particularly the piece you're talking about beginning to come from a we orientation, to put it, very simply, is the most beautiful thing that begins to happen between people when they let down their guard and their defenses and their agendas, and they start to say, well, what can we create together? Where are we going together? This isn't about me and me making my mark anymore. It's about my participation and our participation in something. And from that place, there's this, oh my God, a whole new experience of being together starts to emerge.
It's fun. It's fun.
Also,
well, there's it is a maturity that happens. There's a certain seasoning that happens, and then organically, the personal process begins to reveal itself as a global process. Mm. And then organically, we move from what can I get. And there's another layer that is added on to what can I give. And for a while, they exist in ratios. They certainly exist in ratios in me. Mm-hmm. And I think many of us have had the benefit of being exposed to people for whom those ratios are so balanced in the direction of being givers, of being lovers, that it inspires and it uplifts. Mm. So I want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
And I ask this because I know that you believe, as we do, that that personal development does up-level into global development. And therefore, I think this question is particularly germane. And that is, when was the last time you did something for the first time?
I love that question. When was the last time you did something for the first time?
I think it must have been about half an hour ago when I got on this show and joined you in a kitchen table conversation.
That's fantastic, and it is fun. I know we're having a blast with you. So,
well, I want to make a point about
those frequencies make a difference.
They make a difference, and the whole opening to mystery and possibility. There's a shift that I'm aware of, and I'm going to harken back to what I was saying a minute ago about, and that you contributed to, the challenge of the bigness of problems, and that everybody and the work and the burden and all of that is a kind of mindset that is kind of an efforting or controlling mindset. It's a doing state. And from that vantage point, it is overwhelming, and that's fine. But there's another operating system, which is more of a surrender and allowing, more of the being state. And that becomes the shift that makes it possible, because in the old paradigm, which is very much an efforting and even a thinking, no, it's going to track back on itself. It becomes too big. Because again, that's coming at it from survival, which isn't going to move it, because that's the place within which it was born. I mean, that's where all the challenges, float up from. So shifting the whole paradigm to this other state of consciousness, or way of being even, is the big game.
Well, can I don't know how, do we still have a couple minutes?
Yeah.
Can I run with that for a second?
Yeah.
Run. We want you to run.
We're going to go over. We're going to get slapped, and we're going to blame it on you.
Right, yeah. It's new. It's radio, and you've got your break.
Absolutely. Call Craig. It wasn't us.
Okay, here we go. So I think that's true, and I think this will map to your own experience, but I think there's actually a little something more than a movement from, because you kind of described very well a movement from kind of egoic, kind of survival-oriented contraction and all the efforting and struggle that brings with it. And you said, no, we got to move away from that toward more of a being, allowing state, which then allows things to flow. And I think that's true. But in my own experience, and really in my own teaching work, where I'm really trying to point people is one place beyond that, where we kind of go through that. It's like we have to do what you said, but what happens when we go all the way through that, and what begins to awaken in us is a whole nother kind of becoming orientation that's not just about being. It actually isn't even interested in just being anymore. It's interested in creating the future, and it cares for evolution, but it's no longer from that effortful, struggling ego place. It's from this overwhelming care for the whole. And there's a sense in that then all of the kind of spiritual qualities of organic self-sacrifice for a greater good that Barnet was talking about, when you meet somebody, it elevates you and inspires you because you realize they're not in it for them at all anymore. There's this, but it's a radical kind of change, evolution, becoming orientation to life that's kind of breathless almost. It's moving so fast. But it's no longer burdened by the structure of the ego, because we've been able to kind of move through that release and allowing.
I love that.
Does that jive with your...
100%. I've said it. I'm more vested in who I'm becoming than who I've been. The idea of a possibility, this is kind of what we came back with, is what's so exciting. And I want to invite people, because I know that you do some wonderful courses, Craig, because I do see you as one of the great teachers in this arena.
All right, let's just get that out of the way, listeners.
Fantastic courses.
Fantastic courses.
Yeah, I want to...
Thank you.
Go immediately to www. That's
Academy.
your cue.
You want me to? Okay, sorry, I didn't know if you wanted me to say it. Go to academyforevolutionaries.com. That's where you can learn about my 9-week course, where I go into everything we're talking about here in a lot more detail and specificity, and where you can, and it's actually starting in a week or two. So
wow, perfect.
This is really
audience.
Wonderful material, folks. So please, we encourage you to bone up on this, and then call us, and we'll discuss it.
And we encourage you, Craig, to come out of the rain of Tahoe and come down to Southern California, where we can put a headset on you in studio.
Bring your surfboard.
Bring your surfboard, and we look forward to hanging with you again.
That's pretty tempting. Hey, it's been a lot of fun, you guys, and Thanks, everybody.
And for all of you listening, hang with us
Yeah.
because we'll be back right after this break.
Welcome back to Cutting Edge Consciousness, thought-provoking discussions and bold ideas from the edge of possibility.
We are back on Cutting Edge Consciousness. This is Barnet Bain.
We've grown.
We have grown. We've grown with Sandy Stewart is here to join us.
Who is Sandy Stewart?
Well, we've known each other for a very, very long time.
We have?
I think so. I hope so. Sandy and I have been married for almost 33 years.
We never
33
know
years
the
now.
number. I love
No,
how... nobody
Every
knows.
time we're on the show, it's like another few years. We just keep adding
less.
years.
I don't
No,
know.
no,
It's
it's a
going
few
up and
months.
down.
Well, the
It's
last time you were
fluctuating.
on the show was only 32 years.
It's 30-ish years.
It's a lot of years.
Early
odd.
30
And
30 odd years.
They've
that's for
flown
sure.
by. So I'm very grateful that you keep being willing to come and sit here with us and play with us.
Yeah, I
Very grateful.
really
And
enjoy it.
when we started the show, we promised that we would discuss in the third segment, which is where we are, a little bit of your experience, because you were with Barnet at this workshop event, which we'll say is called Money and Me. It's a powerful
Money
workshop.
and
Money and
you.
you. Money and
Money
you.
and you. I meant that.
But it is about money and
I was
me. But
just
it
being
is called
narcissistic.
Money
Just
and
to just to set it up a little bit. We have a friend of the show,
Yes.
DC Cordova,
Yeah.
who has been on this program. You can listen to that podcast. It's available on our site and I think also on YouTube. She has a program called Money and You. It is part of something called the Accelerated Business Schools. It was developed, I guess, 35 years ago by Marshall Thurber and Bobby DePorta, who has also been on this show, and influenced considerably by the work of Buckminster Fuller. Has to do with synergies. And so the premise is that how you do one thing is how you do everything, and money is a wonderful lens through which to examine our values and beliefs. And it's the repository, as we've said before on the show, of lots of our neuroses and lots of our adaptive behaviors. And incoming from Freeman, we're getting our cameras aligned here.
Yeah, I'm just not used
Great.
to having that many people in the shot, and I wanted to make sure that your wife's lovely face was in the shot.
Oh, thank you.
Very beautiful.
So
that's
let's segue because thank you for the background.
Yeah.
We want to know what this was, but your experience of it, and Barnet set this up previously, where there's several ways to play this game. There's one way in which everybody wins, and while we may understand conceptually that's a good idea, our instincts often. These survival instincts, kind of what we were talking about with Craig, tend to leap in, and the whole thing goes left or right of maybe what the ideal would be.
Yeah. There's a couple of things I want to talk about that game, which you're alluding to, Freeman. I was in a group, and I was one of the first people to throw an X. In other words, I was one of the first people to screw everybody.
Right.
And because I read the rules of the game, and the rules of the game was win as much money as you can.
Yep.
They didn't say how. They didn't say how many people win.
Yep.
So I was following the rules from my beliefs. And I got a huge wake-up call because I really thought I was one of those evolved win-win people. But what I saw under pressure, when you have 30 seconds and you have to make a decision, I justified, well, look, this is what the instructions say. Win as much as you can. The only way I can win as much as I can is by throwing an X. And when I threw an X, even though my team had all decided we were all going to throw Ys, I threw the whole team into chaos. Because now
It's like kicking an ant's nest.
now nobody knew what to do now because I had
Trust disappeared
Right.
and just chaos.
So that was a huge wake-up call. And that night in bed, I looked at all of the ways I have told myself I believe life is a win-win, but I have demonstrated that I believe life is a win-lose. And somebody has to win and
Big
somebody has
time.
to... This was in like the first 3 hours of the workshop, okay?
Yeah.
The next thing that happened that was hugely, hugely impactful for me, and it's just what you were talking about with Craig, the me to we.
Mm-hmm.
So this was an experience, and Craig alluded to this as well. If I had moved from me to we, and I believe that concept, but prior to that game, the me I was moving from was the me who believed everything was win-lose. So how can I possibly move to we holding that belief? So I successfully saw that belief and was able, as you said, Barnet, change happens in an instant. You're working on it for 30 years. You get it. I changed it. One of the last games we had to do was a game that actually connected us, I see now in retrospect, to the me. Because in order to be the me that can move to we, you have to be in your essence, your true essence. Now, this game was a group of 6 people. You're in a group, and you have to demonstrate the essence of these words: love, joy, courage, trust, and integrity.
And it's not charades.
No,
by the
you
way.
cannot demonstrate it by charades.
It's
you have
being
to
states.
demonstrate. The instructions were
Embodied.
demonstrate the essence
Yep.
of the word.
Yep.
Now, we demonstrated this from 10 p.m. to 3 a.m. That's how long
I
it took.
demonstrated exhaustion at one point.
Well, we all demonstrate exhaustion too. And what would happen is you would get with your group, you would demonstrate it, you'd put up your hand, you'd practice, you'd put up your hand when you were ready to demonstrate. The judges, so to speak, or the viewers would come over.
Yep.
You would demonstrate, they would walk away and huddle, and they'd either come back and say, what was your word? They had a card. So if they thought you were doing love, they'd get out the love card, ask you, what did you demonstrate? If we said love, they would show the love card, and we could move to the next word. Or sometimes they
felt
would...
it.
Or
But
sometimes...
if you were giving mixed messages or it wasn't fully
That's
embodied...
why we're there till 3 a.m.
Yeah,
no,
they
so
would-
this is powerful because we used to do this as an acting exercise. Remember the whole be the lemon kind of thing? And you'd be sitting there going, how do I be a lemon? But the idea behind it was, what's the essence of what I associate with that, where I can embody it in such a way where people know what I'm expressing.
And be it. And if they didn't get it,
Right.
they would say, thank you for your demonstration. We did not get the essence of the word. Now, our team, we flew through love. We flew through joy. We did trust really well. We did courage really well. We got to integrity, and it's hard to demonstrate.
man.
And we tried different things, and they said we were doing charades and we were acting it out. We weren't. It wasn't the essence. We're in one of our huddles trying to figure it out, and all of a sudden I got Gandhi and the salt mines. That was integrity against Martin Luther King, against all odds.
Yeah.
You just, okay, so
Full commitment.
so we decided we were going to sit in a circle. We were all going to feel essence. They would come over
Connect
and
to our hearts.
connect to our hearts. Think about Martin Luther King. Feel it. They would come over, and if they said they didn't get the essence, we would immediately put our hands up again and call over another team to judge. And immediately, because that's integrity. We are going to stick
I
with
love
our
that.
desire no
I
matter
love
what's
that.
going on around us.
You weren't the judge. They
well,
didn't love
listen,
it.
okay, so what happened
Well,
was...
no, but that's a way of taking where you really are under real circumstances, letting intention drive your decisions, and committing. And you're supposed to get feedback that's pushed back, and you're still supposed to
That's right.
stay committed.
That's right.
Is that what happened?
Exactly. Well,
well,
we got pushback. This was probably about midnight when we got to integrity. We sat and did that till 2 a.m. Finally, at 2 a.m., I think because of time constrictions, one of the leaders of the group came over and said, guys, there's I didn't agree with this, but I think it was because they didn't want us there till 9 a.m. They said, there's integrity and there's stubbornness. What are you being? And we all said, we are being in our integrity. We're
Yes.
not being stubborn. But we switched and we did something else, and then they said they got the feeling and we moved on. But all of us agreed that when we were really in our integrity, we felt it differently. But what that experience gave me was demonstrate. How do I demonstrate
right.
moment to moment in
Yep.
my life my essence?
Yep.
So I left that workshop.
And
then-
or my commitment, because there's an essential embodying of a commitment that's palpable, that shows up
Yes.
as resolve, that shows up as trustworthy in the world. That is integrity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or
yes.
you could be a committed psycho.
Well,
So-
that's true too. But see, that you read that. I'm not saying there can't be flexibility. Look, if the intention's big enough, there's tons of flexibility within that. It can hold all kinds of, left and right and whatever, because that intention's big enough.
Yeah. But exactly what you're saying, when you're putting your hand up at 2 a.m. for the 100th time probably doing the same thing, and you're exhausted and there's chaos around you and teams are getting it and they're cheering every time they get it and you're not getting it. Life doesn't come at you at measured increments.
That's a
it
good
comes
point.
at you like chaos.
Yeah.
And it's in the chaos, what do you do? What do you demonstrate? Now I have, as you said about the first game, an embodied, felt sense of what it feels like to demonstrate who I am, what my essence of love, joy, courage, trust, and integrity. So, silly little example, yesterday morning I have an appointment and I'm on my computer and I realize it's 10:10 and I have to leave at 10:20. And I realize, I'm still in my pajamas. So I yell to Barnet, will you make me a shake? I got to run. I put on my clothes. He makes me a shake. He doesn't make my shake very well. He puts the powder in.
He wasn't fully committed.
He did it as best he could, but he did it the way he makes his shake, and mine's not the same. Mine's rice pea, and his is whey, and it doesn't shake up the same way. So all my shake stuff was in a glom at the bottom, and then it was all liquid. So before I got the felt sense of demonstrating,
this is why I love your relationship.
I would have said, what the? Can't you even make a Egan shake? Really?
Egan?
Yeah, you know what I mean. I can't say it on the radio.
An Egan.
right.
So, but I would have said it. So that's demonstrating anger and frustration, and you can't demonstrate anger and frustration and love simultaneously. I thought you could. For the last 30 years, I thought I could be both. But actually, you can't be both. If you're holding one, you're not holding the other. Because I was so conscious of demonstrating, I looked at the shake and I smiled. And I said, oh, honey, all the powder's at the bottom. And I took my shake thing, I put another little scoop in, put it on the machine, whipped it up, put it in my cup, kissed him and said, thank you so much for making my shake. I love you. Have a great day. And I ran out. And I went, wow, that was totally different. I demonstrated love.
Right. Well, and there's a number of other things, too. The commitment to something bigger, which is the love, carried the day. That's what I was trying to say. I mean, this is the whole part of the relationship vision that Jazz and I have, is it's big enough to hold all of the challenges, but we keep grounding and rooting in what are we up to becoming, which is part of the conversation we had with Craig Hamilton. I'm more vested in who I'm becoming than who I've been. It's okay who I'm been. I'm not denying that. And my propensity to tracking back to those kinds of behaviors, I get it. But my focus, my commitment is more towards what I want to generate and create. And I've had enough of a taste of it, right?
The future, as we've said often here, the future creates the present against the backdrop of the past. If we are constantly repeating the past and tracking back to the past and trying to fix the past, that is a being state. That is this essence that Sandy's talking about.
Yeah.
All actions, all behaviors, all doings are under the umbrella of they exist inside of a frequency that only has so much capacity. But if you shift the frequency, if you shift the umbrella, if it's a bigger umbrella, if it's a different being state, then a couple of weeks ago we fumbled on this chop wood, carry water thing.
Yeah.
It looks the same. Chop wood, carry water, shift the frequency state. You're still chopping wood, carrying the water, but the quality
Of the experience.
of chopping wood and carrying water when you're in a reactive state or an angry state or a win-lose state, that is very different from doing the same actions inside the being state, in a more win-win being state or a loving being state. Or a compassionate being state.
And I'm going to suggest, because the idea is that capacity expands, is that now you can chop wood, carry water, and perhaps do something else. You know, there's more of me available in all the things I do it, or the care with which I can chop wood and carry water, the way in which I come to it. The experience changes in a very, very substantive way, right? Because there's more of me in it. It's similar to, I mean, the other part of this language, essence and then presence, right? how we show up, what we present in the world, how we, and how attuned to what's going on in our experience we are. I think of this in terms of parenting. Kids are very clear when you're not really present.
Mm-hmm.
They're really clear. You can tell them out of your mouth something that sounds right, but not be in integrity. It's not integrated within yourself, and they'll call BS on you. Thank you, radio. In an instant, energetically, they'll say it's not true. So this is where that constant sort of, what's my bigger game? What's my bigger game? What's my bigger offer? What's the bigger opportunity here?
What happened to me, though, I completely agree. And what happened to me in this game is, instead of thinking, what's my bigger opportunity, from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m., I had to sit in the essence of who I am. I couldn't think, what's my bigger game? I couldn't think. So the next part of that game, and it also translated into my relationship, is after we finished all that, 2 a.m., we go, yay, we're finished. No, we're not. There's one more word that they give you, and the word is responsibility. And so we were moving from the me essence to the we responsibility. Once we got the 5 or 6 hours of the me essence handled, we moved to the we of responsibility. And in that we of responsibility, the only way you could pass that game was through a certain exercise.
Yeah, I love it.
I think we're over. I think we are responsible to the clock here.
Just started here.
I
gotta come back.
Thank you. I want to thank you, San, for joining us, and Freeman for joining me every week, and me for joining you every week.
It's a love
And
fest.
our listeners, we hope that you'll join us here again next week on Cutting Edge Consciousness.